I know that in Christianity, there's some people that say that God is one, and then they say that also one. Jesus is man and God in one.
Yes.
But in the Old Testament, and it talks about God being like the creator of the world, but it doesn't mention himself being Jesus. So I'm just wondering how
when you say Jesus,
it kind of changed.
Yeah, why would you expect the name Jesus to be given in the Old Testament when Jesus is the name given when he became man? So if you're asking me, does the Old Testament show the one God is more than one person? All over the place. I just gave an example to one man earlier, but I can do it again. Obviously, you agree with me, God is beyond understanding. We can't fully understand God, right?
Yes.
So aql, logic, will only take you so far. Naql will take you the rest of the way. And there are things that our aql, our logic, cannot comprehend because God is beyond comprehension. We all agree with that. Now, with that said, when you say God is one, what does it mean for him to be one? See, to say one means nothing if you don't define it. What's one?
Meaning one and like there's nothing else like him and nothing over him. There's just...
Okay, well, there's nothing like the Trinity, right? Can you show me in creation a triune being? One being that's three persons simultaneously. Is there anything in creation like that?
Well, a lot of Christians use example like you're a human body and then your soul and
that's not three persons,
three
one being.
One.
That's not three persons, one being. I'm saying three persons that exist as one being. Their being is one, their existence is one, but there are three persons in relationship. Anything in creation like that?
No, I never heard anything like that.
So you just proved the Trinity is unlike anything in creation. So the Trinity is more likely to be true because God is unlike anything in creation.
Okay, if you put it that way, I can see that, but I don't know. It's just...
Well, you have your own Trinity, so you're confusing me because you say you believe Ahl al-Sunnah wa Jama'ah. The Quran is Kalam Allah, speech of Allah. It's the speech of Allah, the word of Allah, Kalam Allah. You're not a Shia, you're not a Mu'tazila. You don't believe the Quran is created because according to Ahl al-Sunnah wa Jama'ah, that would be kufr, that would be disbelief, right?
Is disbelief to think that the Quran is incomplete or
no, it's
missing?
Disbelief to say it's created because the Quran is Kalam Allah, the speech of Allah. It's one of his sifat. Okay, so don't take my word for it. Go online, search Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, or go ask your sheikh if he's knowledgeable. Sheikh, is the Quran Kalam Allah? Yes. Is it uncreated or is it created? Makhluk, he'll say it's uncreated. To say it's created is kufr. Let's assume you agree, because you have to agree, because you said you're Ahl Sunnah. The Quran is not Allah, right?
No.
Okay, now follow with me, because I'm going to show you have the same problem. The difference is, my problem is true, because I have the true God and his true word. You think you have the true God. May God keep guiding you. Okay, the Quran is not Allah. So now Allah is uncreated and the Quran is uncreated. Allah is uncreated and the Quran is uncreated according to Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah. Let's do the math. Allah is uncreated, the Quran is uncreated, the Quran is not Allah. That's two. You have two uncreated things. How's that possible?
Well, they say that the Quran was made by Allah and then
it's not for Allah. If you're Ahl Sunnah, that is kufr. It's not made by Allah. It's always been. It's uncreated. I mean, I have the quotations from the scholars. I have Hamza Yusuf in his translation of, the Aqidah of Tahawi. They're showing this is the position. I have the citations. I can show it to you, but this is the position of Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah. So confirm it, please. I don't want you to take my word for it. They will tell you it's uncreated. So then you ask them the question. Allah is uncreated. Quran is uncreated. Quran is not Allah. That's two. How do you have two uncreated things? Then they'll tell you, they'll say, bilaqiq, meaning, even though we don't understand how, Allah says it, for Allah it makes sense, and that's good enough for us. And they'll say, though the Quran is not Allah, it's not other than Allah, because it's a part of Him. So that means you have a mystery in your own deen that you don't comprehend, but you don't deny. The difference between you and me, you say Quran is the speech of Allah. I say Jesus is the speech of Allah. And God's speech became a man, not a book. So if you can still believe Allahu Ahad, Allah Wahid, God is one, Allah is one, though the Quran is uncreated, and it's not Allah, but not other than Him, and it's still one, then why do you have a problem with me saying God's eternal word became a man, his name is Jesus, and God is still one? Why do you have a problem with that?
I don't have a problem. I was just asking.
Good. No, and I say that, Jen, I'm saying it in a nice way. I'm not saying it in a mean way. Problem meaning to say, it doesn't make sense. Well, there are things about God that's not going to make sense to anyone. That doesn't mean we reject it.
Okay, and the last thing, I don't want to take too much time.
You can take all the time you want.
In Islam, it says that I don't know how much you know about this, about the crucifixion being, it was appeared to the people.
Yes, Surah An-Nisa, Ayah 157.
So why would a crucifixion be an allusion to somebody? What's the point of that?
I agree with you. You got to ask the Muslims, why would Allah make it appear unto the Jews that Jesus was killed, or Jesus was never killed. And then why would all...
And there's two versions of it as well. They said he was a man who looked like him, or that they say somebody else took his place, and they suspected to be the one who turned against him, like Judas.
Sure.
So there's two versions to that, if you know about it.
No, I don't know about it. They say one of the disciples was made to look like him, or it was the betrayer Judas, or someone else was made to look like him. But either way, who made the person look like it was Jesus?
They said Allah, and then it said also Allah is the best of deceivers or planners. But I'm just wondering, but what's the point to deceive somebody to become a Christian when the message is Islam?
Well, it never happened. That's what I'm saying. The Quran doesn't know what it's talking. That's why we're not Muslim, because the followers of Jesus and all the earliest documents, and prove me wrong, quote a serious, not a joke, conspiratory theorist who doesn't believe Jesus existed. Quote any serious historian, even someone like Bart Ehrman, who's not a Christian, any serious historian, and get them to say Jesus was not killed by crucifixion. They all agree on this. The one fact they agree, they'll deny Jesus is God. They'll deny that he claimed to be God. They'll deny much of the New Testament, but they'll say one fact we know, Jesus was killed by crucifixion. And they'll say another fact we know, his disciples, those who knew him, like Peter and Mary Magdalene, went around preaching that he was killed by crucifixion and God raised him from the dead. So according to Islam, that means Allah convinced the Hawariyun, the disciples of Jesus, Jesus was killed for their sins and God raised them to vindicate him. Why did Allah do this? Allahu Alam, they'll tell you. No, because Allah didn't do anything. Jesus was killed and he was raised from the dead because he voluntarily died for my sins and now is risen as Lord of creation. And if I trust in him, I will be saved. In fact, according to you, Ahl al-Sunnah, where's Isa, alayhi salam? That's what you guys say. Where is he now?
They say that it says he wasn't killed nor crucified, but he was raised up to heaven.
Well, you know what the sad thing is? It doesn't say heaven. They're deceiving you. I'm going to give you two ayat from the Quran. Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 55, and I'll read it for you if you want. And Surah Al-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 158. Okay, it says, when Allah said, oh Jesus, indeed, I will take you and raise you to myself, and purify you from those who disbelieve. Now, 4:158, it says, nay, but Allah raised him to himself. The Quran doesn't say Jesus was taken to heaven. The Quran says Allah raised Jesus, took Jesus to himself. Where's Allah?
They said in his throne.
Okay, where's Jesus if Allah took Jesus to himself?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
Well, the Quran says it. Here, let me read it.
Okay.
Nay, Surah An-Nisa, 4:158. Nay, Allah took him up to himself. Jesus was taken to Allah. Wherever Allah is, that's where Jesus went. So if Allah is on the throne and Allah took Jesus to himself, where is Jesus according to the Quran?
I don't want to say anything that I don't know.
I know. No, I know you're scared. May Jesus set you free from your fear, because Jesus does not give you a spirit of fear. It says he gives you a spirit of boldness, right, and of love, not a spirit of fear and timidity. So may Jesus, the true Son of God, save you because he's in love with you. Now, if I just go by the Quran, I'm going to repeat it again, 4:158. And if you have the Quran open and read it, it's right there. Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 158. It says, nay, Allah took him to himself. The Quran says Allah took Jesus to where Allah is. That means if Allah is on the throne, Jesus is on the throne, and he's been there for 2,000 years. What in the world is Jesus doing with Allah on the throne for 2,000 years when even Muhammad is dead and buried in the tomb?
I don't know.
Exactly. You won't know. You know why you won't know?
Why?
Because you're following the false religion. If you come to the truth, you will know. In fact, I'm going to give you some more questions. I'm not debating you. And if you don't have an answer, it's okay. I want you to think about it. You know, the only woman mentioned by name in the entire Quran is Mary, the mother of Christ, right? Maryam.
Yes.
And you know that in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 42, it says that Maryam is the greatest woman, that Allah preferred her and purified her and chose her above all women, right?
Yes.
And you know, according to Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, it says, according to your prophet, this is the tafsir, the exposition, the interpretation of chapter 3, verse 36, where Mary's mother prayed to Allah, and he goes, I entrust her and her offspring. I entrust Mary, my daughter, and her offspring to you to be protected from the accursed Satan. And then Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim state that your prophet said that Satan pricks all the children of Adam when they're born, except Mary and her son.
Yeah.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now follow me. Mary and Jesus are the only human beings Satan could not touch, but that means he touched your prophet. Mary and Jesus right, are the only human beings in the Quran said to be pure and sinless. Mary is the only woman mentioned by name in the entire Quran. Not even your prophet's mother or his wives or the wives of anyone or the mothers of anyone are mentioned. Mary is the best woman Allah made. Mary has an entire chapter named in her honor. So my question to you, why is Mary so honored? Pure, like her son is pure, the only woman mentioned by name, has an entire chapter named in her honor, the greatest woman Allah created. What makes her so special? If Muhammad is the best, how come his mother is not mentioned? She's not the best. She's not preferred. And according to Sahih Muslim, she's in hell.
Who is in hell? His mother?
Yes, that's in Sahih Muslim.
Yes, I read something that there's some narration that the Prophet cried for his mother. Yes,
Sahih Muslim. Yeah. I have it in my articles. Sahih Muslim, and it says
also,
in Sahih Muslim.
If you look at Noah, or Nu in Arabic, his wife and his son were disbelievers.
Good, because they're not as great as Jesus. So what makes Mary great? You're making my point. What makes Mary great?
Well, the same thing about her being pure is like how Jesus was created without a father, but then somebody could say Adam was created without a father. So what would make him great?
Okay, let me show you why that's a silly argument. Was Adam the first man?
Yes.
Could he have parents?
No.
Was Eve the first woman?
Yes.
Could she have a mother?
No, her father.
So why was Jesus born of a virgin when it wasn't necessary? He could have been born to human parents. So why was he born of a virgin then?
I don't know, but I guess
exactly. You don't know, right?
Like it's like there's different prophets for different reasons. So
none of them
that's just
have the qualities of Jesus. None of them. Show me in the Quran where someone other than Jesus is said to be pure and his mother pure. Show me that. Show me in the Quran where someone besides Jesus was born of a virgin. Adam and Eve, bad argument, because Adam could not have parents. He's the first man. Eve, first woman. She couldn't have a mother. But for Jesus, he could have been born the natural way, like your prophet was born the natural way, like Abraham. But for some reason, God decides to cause Jesus to be born miraculously, and yet you Muslims don't know why. And then on top of that, the Quran and Hadith call Jesus Kalimat Allah, Ruh Allah, the word of Allah and the spirit of Allah. And it says
it's also it's called the Rasul, the one who comes.
And Rasul is common to everyone, right? Rasul is common to everyone, right? Everyone, Abraham is a Rasul and Moses is a Rasul, right?
No,
yes, they are.
I'm pretty sure that the Rasul is the one who came with the book, like Moses with the Torah, the Injil, the Bible, Jesus, and then the third book.
Okay, in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 163 and 164, a list of names are given, and they're said to be Rasul, meaning apostles. So what I'm trying to say is, this term Rasul, is it only one person?
The Nabi. I think Nabi is the one.
Not in Surah An-Nisa, it doesn't say Nabi. I know your argument. There it doesn't say Nabi, it says Rasul. They were given wahi and
I wasn't sure because I don't speak Arabic, so I didn't know which was Nabi and which is what.
That's why Nabi means prophet and Rasul means messenger. But still, you're missing the point. Is there only one prophet or are there many people called prophets?
There are many prophets, many messengers.
Okay, now can you show me someone besides Jesus called the word of Allah?
I don't know.
There's none. Can you show me someone besides Jesus called the Ruh Allah?
But if you say that the Quran is false, then why would it prove Christianity?
Because you believe it. I don't need to quote the Quran, but you believe the Quran, right?
Okay. Yes.
So if I show you what your Quran tells you to believe, why are you rejecting it? If you're not a Muslim, we're not going to quote the Quran.
No, because you're trying to show me that, you see, Christianity is true because look, the Quran is making correlations like to Christianity.
Just like you appeal to the Bible to prove Muhammad is true, right? So why do you Muslims appeal to the Bible to show Muhammad is true?
Because they say that actually he was predicted in the Bible.
The corrupt Bible.
That it wasn't.
Oh, so the corrupt Bible. So those parts of the Bible show Muhammad is a liar. That's corrupt. So I'm doing to you what needs to be done because you believe in the Quran. I don't. I'm telling you, your Quran tells you all these things about Jesus. Do you have an answer? No. So then you come to the truth and you'll have your answer. I don't use the Quran to prove the Bible. The Bible doesn't need the Quran. The Bible condemns the Quran. But you believe the Quran. If you're a Hindu, I'll quote your Vedas for you. I'm not going to quote your Quran.
Okay.
So again, according to your Quran, what makes Jesus so special that he's the only one called the word of Allah and the spirit of Allah? And that his mother.
Well, when I ask other Muslims, they say it's just one of the miracles, like of God, that he would create a human being without a father.
Oh, wait. So he's called the word of Allah because he was created by Allah, his word?
I don't know.
Yeah, they don't know either. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to make sense because that still doesn't explain to me, of all the people, Jesus is born of a virgin. He's the word of Allah sent to Mary, a spirit from him. He is pure. Mary is the only woman mentioned by name. She's the greatest of all women. She is pure. And all of a sudden, all of that it's a coincidence. It's just a coincidence. It's just this one individual. And related to that, can you show me someone other than Jesus and Allah, the Quran, that creates from clay and breathes life into that clay and makes it a living being?
There is not, but there were other prophets who performed miracles like Moses.
Show me where they created like Allah. Allah is the only one who creates from clay and breathes life into it along with Jesus. See how you're trying to denigrate this miracle that even your Quran doesn't ascribe to anyone but Allah and Jesus? That's not going to get you far. Can you show me where someone besides Jesus creates exactly like Allah does? And why is Jesus breathing life? Yeah, the verb is create. It's khalaqa.
Well, in the Bible, it says like Jesus says like I can't do anything except with the power or permission of God.
That's not what he says. He misquoted him. But you sure you want to go to Jesus? Because if I quote that, it's going to prove Jesus is Muhammad's God. You want me to show you that?
But I'm just wondering why, if God came to earth, why he would need the permission of God if he is God.
Because if he is not the only person of God, but he's the son of the Father, you want him to dishonor the Father and disrespect him? Is that what you want him to do?
I wouldn't know if that's disrespect or not, because I'm not understanding the...
Jesus is not the Father. So he's the Father's son who's one with him in nature. So if the Father sends him, what do you want him to do? Say, hey, Dad, you know what? Because I'm God, I'm going to do what I want. I don't need to listen to you. That's what you want him to do?
I'm just confused how there could be somebody who is unknowledgeable and then somebody who's all-knowing at the same time.
I don't understand what you're asking. Can you say it again?
Like, because somebody like Jesus who is limited because he needed to ask God for permission and for help.
See, again, you're confusing permission with ability. See, you're twisting it here. Do you drive?
Yes.
Okay. If I give you permission to drive my car, does that mean I'm giving you the ability to drive it?
Yeah, I understand what you mean, yeah.
Okay, well, and, let me repeat it again, because I said it too fast. I give you permission to drive my car. Does that mean I gave you the ability to drive my car? Or I'm assuming that you have the ability and I'm permitting you to use your ability?
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're giving me the ability.
So now can you show me either in the Bible or in the Quran where it says God gave Jesus the ability as opposed to God permitting Jesus to exercise his divine power and ability?
I don't know.
It doesn't, because I'll tell you what the Quran says. Bi-idhni Allah means by the permission of Allah. By the permission of Allah is not quwwa or quwwa power.
Okay.
Okay. But can I go to that verse that you quoted that you said Jesus had to be given power? I want to read it in context if you don't mind. I'll go back to the Bible.
Is this the New Testament?
Yes, the one that you mentioned there where Jesus says that I do nothing on my own, right?
Yes.
Okay, now let's read it carefully. You ready?
Yeah.
John 5:19, because that's the one you quoted, because Muslims often misquote that. John 5:19, let's read it. I think my friend, the first class is going to post it for me. John 5:19. Then Jesus answered and said to them, most surely I say to you, now here's what you were quoting. The Son can do nothing of himself, but let's finish it. But what he sees the Father do. For whatever he does, the Son also does in like manner. So notice what Jesus said. I cannot do anything on my own initiative. I can only do what the Father does, and I do whatever the Father does. Now I want to ask you a question. Can a creature say, I cannot do anything except what God does, and whatever God does, I do it the same way that God does it?
No, because a human being cannot do what God does.
But Jesus just said exactly what you just read. Read it again. John 5:19. See what Jesus said. This is the verse that Muslims always quote out of context. John 5:19. But let me read it one more time because I want it to sink in. Then Jesus answered and said to them, most assuredly I say to you, the Son can do nothing of himself, by himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever the Father does, the Son also does in like manner. So can you quote any angel, Jibreel, or your prophet saying, I cannot do a single thing on my own initiative. I can only do what Allah does, and whatever Allah does, that's what I do.
No.
So does this sound like a mere man talking, or someone who thinks he's God in the flesh, one with the Father?
I'm not sure.
Okay, but
I would like to.
Okay,
I would like to just move on to the next question.
Go ahead. What's the next question?
I know that in Islam it says that the only sin that's unforgivable is shirk, which is like associating partner with Allah. And basically, a Muslim could go to hell if they do things like they don't pray their 5 daily prayers, or they miss Ramadan on purpose and other things, but they will only go to hell for a short time. I was wondering in Christianity if a Christian could still go to hell.
Yeah, well, you're asking, that depends on what tradition you follow. There is a tradition among Catholics that believe in purgatory. It's not hell. Purgatory, in the Catholic understanding, and you have to ask the Catholic. I'm not an expert in Catholic theology, just like you have different theologies in Islam, right? You can't be an expert in everything. In Catholic theology, there's purgatory. Purgatory is only for true Christians who love Jesus Christ, but they may have not cooperated with the Holy Spirit to undo the temporal effects of the sins they committed on earth. So now they need to go to a realm in which they are purged and purified and cleansed to enter into heaven. So purgatory, if you go to purgatory in Catholic teaching, that means you're going to heaven. Only those who are going to go to heaven go to purgatory. Those who don't go to heaven go to hell, and they stay there. But that's a Catholic teaching. You'd have to ask a Catholic to show you why he believes it and the scriptural support for it.
Okay, and about the Orthodox Christianity, they have a lot of pictures in the church, sure. Lots of statues and things like that. But I thought that was against Christianity because it says in the Ten Commandments not to make. No, the Ten Commandments doesn't say.
No, it doesn't say no pictures. The Ten Commandment says you don't make pictures of things that you worship as gods and goddesses. There's a difference. It's a difference between having an image of a god or a goddess that you worship and having an image, because the same God fashioned images. But beyond that, in Islam stands condemned, because in Leviticus 26:1 it says you're not going to take any figured stones and venerate them. So why does your prophet make it sunnah? And why did he kiss a black stone, smother a black stone, and touch a black stone, and made it sunnah for you when you go to Hajj or Umrah, that if you can, you must touch and kiss the black stone?
Well, I don't know much about Hajj Umrah.
But that isn't Hajj. Don't take my word for it. Ask the Muslim. When you perform Hajj or Umrah, one of the rites of Hajj, not only do you run between Safa and Marwa 7 times and run around the Kaaba 7 times and throw stones at Wadi Mina. If you're able, because of the crowds, you may not be able, you must touch the black stone and kiss it. And there's a hadith in Bukhari where Umar ibn al-Khattab said when he's about to kiss it, he goes, "Indeed, you are a stone, and I know that you can neither harm nor benefit me. Had I not seen the Messenger of Allah kiss you, I would not have kissed you." So he didn't understand the logic of it. So according to the Sharia of Musa, Muhammad stands condemned. And if you do that, you stand condemned. Because that is a stone that has no significance. It was a stone venerated by the pagans that Muhammad took over. But coming back to your question, the Bible doesn't say you can't have images. It says you can't have images of things that you worship as gods and goddesses. And I can show you in the Bible where God himself said, make an image. An image that you don't worship as a god or goddess, but an image nonetheless. That's in the Bible. I can show you that if you want to see it.
Okay, but why didn't some Orthodox, like those hymns and stuff, they say like Mary, Mother of God, and they kind of like praise her?
Well, I mean, think about it. If Jesus is God in her womb, he didn't stop being God. In one sense, she's the mother of God, in that the baby that's forming in her womb, taking a physical body, is still God in her womb. So technically, even though you don't believe it, I'm not saying believe it, but technically, if Jesus was God in her womb, technically, isn't that the mother of God?
If you put it that way, yeah.
Okay, that's the thing. So the debate is, do you accept that Jesus is God who became a human baby and he took a human nature from the blessed womb of his mother? Well, you reject that. But let's say you believe it. Jesus is the eternal word of the Father, the eternal word of the Father. Kalimat Allah, like the Quran says, or Hadith. And that eternal word entered the womb of Mary and reside in her womb, taking a physical body, human nature, by the power of God, to become a human baby. But in that womb, he's still the Word, he's still divine, he's still God. So technically, she'd be the mother of God, right?
Like I said, if you put it that way, yes, but I'm not going to...
No, that's okay. I'm not saying believe it, but now you get the logic. So that's why Christians say what they say. They're not saying Mary gave God his life, or Mary gave God his divine nature, or Mary gave birth to a divine person who didn't exist. They're saying that Mary gave to Jesus a physical body, a human nature that he took from her womb, but that Jesus is the eternal word. He's a divine person that existed before Mary and chose Mary to be his mother. That's what we're saying.
And a lot of Muslims say that actually Jesus was Palestinian, but in the Quran it says Israel.
Yeah, they're just saying that because they want to argue that the land belongs to them. That's, neither here nor there. But I mean, the term Palestine, it wasn't called Palestine at the time of Jesus. It wasn't.
There's also no P in the Arabic alphabet.
Well, even they'll say Philistine. It wasn't called Philistine. It was called Judea. The J is silent. But you get the point.
Okay, and the last thing, a lot of Muslims say that it's the true religion because if you were to take all the Qurans and throw them in the garbage or in the ocean, the Quran could be brought back because it's memorized. Really? So what if somebody destroyed all the Bibles? How can you bring it back? Did anybody memorize the Bible?
Then how do you explain the fact you have at least 38 different Arabic versions of the Quran? And even in Islamic tradition, you have 7 qiraat of the Uthmanic Mus'haf. And those 7 came down through 2 chains for a total of 14 qiraat plus 3 others for good measure that was chosen by Mujahid centuries later. So then which of those Arabic versions is the actual original version that Uthman codified? And if memorization preserved the Quran, then explain to me why in Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, I'm giving you the English numbering. Sahih Bukhari, volume 6, number 510, Uthman ibn Affan ordered the Arabic Masahif, the Arabic Qurans, the copies of the Quran written in Arabic by Muhammad's companions such as Abdullah ibn Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b be gathered and burned and destroyed, because those Arabic Qurans, they disagreed so much with one another. Some Qurans had verses that the other Qurans didn't have, if memorization was able to preserve it. Didn't Abdullah ibn Masud memorize the Quran? Didn't Ubay ibn Ka'b memorize the Quran? If so, why is it when they wrote down the Quran, their Qurans contradicted each other and didn't completely agree?
I don't know about that. I just know that.
Yeah, of course you're not going to know. They're not going to tell you. Exactly. They're not going to tell you. And as far as the Bible is concerned, let me tell you why the Bible can't be destroyed. When the Bible books written, they were immediately copied and sent to different centers all over the world. So if I wrote a book, the people made copies of it and spread it to other parts of the world. So from early on, the books of the Bible were mass copied and sent all over the world at a time in which you didn't have internet, you didn't have email, you didn't have UPS. So you'd make a copy, and by the time, let's say you're in Israel and you go to Rome, it'll take you weeks, if not months, to get there. And there, you give the copy to the church there, and they start copying it. So what happens is the Bible is mass copy, which is why today, right now as we speak, we still have in our possession in museums all over the world nearly 25,000 copies of the books of the Bible in different languages. As far as the New Testament, written in Greek, we have about 5,300 copies in Greek. And then we have about 10,000 copies of the biblical books in Latin. And then we have thousands of others in Aramaic, Syriac, Sahidic, Coptic, Armenian. And that's what has survived. So imagine throughout the centuries, mass copying of the Bible, different parts of the world, they have their copies that they're copying and recopying and recopying. So at what point in time could the Bible ever be lost?
If nobody memorized it.
Why would they need to if you're still didn't follow me? Paul wrote down Titus. And there are people copying what Paul wrote down and spread it, and they're copying it and recopying it. So at what point in time was it lost?
I'm just saying, if all of a sudden all the Bibles were just vanished, how would you bring it back?
How is that possible when you're giving me a hypothetical? I mean, I can't deal with hypotheticals, because if you destroy all the Bibles, then that means God failed to preserve his word. So you're dealing with hypotheticals. I'm dealing with actual.
It also says that about the Quran, that it's actually, they say the Quran is one of the miracles that it's been preserved.
I just told you that the Arabic Qurans are not identical. They have thousands of differences in the Arabic alone. Uthman destroyed the copies of Muhammad's companions, Sahaba. You know Abdullah bin Masud, right? He's a Sahabi?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now, why did Uthman destroy the Arabic Musaf of Abdullah bin Masud when Sahih Bukhari, take my word for it, do your research. Muhammad said, learn the Quran from 4. And he mentioned Abdullah bin Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b as 2. Abdullah bin Masud and Ubay ibn Ka'b, their Qurans disagreed. One had verses the other didn't have, and one had more surahs than the other. And Uthman destroyed both their copies, and he standardized the one produced by Zayd. Who gave Uthman that right? Why did they destroy their copies? And why did their copies disagree when they memorized the Quran from Muhammad? Why didn't their memorization agree?